So it's been a while since I made a RemNote video that really got into the features in RemNote in a rather long video, and I am really excited to be returning to this program. Actually, in my personal life, I kind of strayed away from RemNote for a little while just because of life stuff, and I just couldn't keep up with my French notes and my French learning. But it is what it is, and now we're back. And I've always wanted to make a video on portals and references and things like this that we're about to go into, but just never found the right place for it. And I think this is a good time to really get into it. So with features like referencing, portals, and universal descriptors, we're going to focus on connecting notes, making connections within something like a knowledge base or just notes, right? And really, the obvious reason for connecting notes together, either being related notes or maybe notes that contradict and you just want to start making connections, is to build a better understanding of said concept or subject, right? And we'll go through that. So without further ado, this video is going to be a little bit on the long side, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so let's start with this page of notes on Stoicism. In this page, it's really just a waterfall of bullet points or rems, and there are no connections made, no references made, no portals, nothing, no tagging, just a list of notes. And we're going to go through in this video and create those connections. So why do you want to create connections between notes in a knowledge base? Really, the obvious answer to that is to create a deeper understanding, as well to create groupings of information. So if you're like me and you're just jotting things down in no particular order, not really using folders, it's good to start making connections with other notes and to tag so that you can create this more natural category system without thinking too much. The first thing you can do is start creating links. So if we look at the top here, we have a rem, and when I say rem, I mean a note. And when I say note, I mean a bullet point. So this is a parent bullet point, Stoicism, dominant philosophy of the Roman Empire. This bullet point is the parent. Underneath of the parent is the child. That's sort of your classic bullet point structure. In RemNote, this is called a concept and a descriptor. Not that hard to wrap your head around, but I can understand if you're hearing these terms, like concepts and descriptors, it can get a little bit confusing. With that being said, there is this mantra, I guess, in RemNote community, that is everything is a rem. So any block at all is a rem. What I want to do is create another rem within this note. Roman Empire is a phrase that I'm going to use a lot going forward, I'm assuming. So I want to create its own page. So I'm going to link this out, Roman Empire, and what I'm going to do is just highlight it and then just press that open bracket key once and go here to create rem, and now I can link it out. Now what I'm going to do is fill in this page. So I'm going to go shift click, and now I have the Roman Empire page, the empty page in another panel. Now the reason why I'm linking this out is because I'm going to be using it a lot. So I want to be able to create a unique grouping, a unique place to retrieve information. So if I ever want to retrieve all of the information in my workspace that has to do with the Roman Empire, I go to this page, and down below at the bottom here is sort of the backlinking feature in RemNote through portals, which we'll get into this video. So down here you'll see one reference. So I only have one reference so far of the Roman Empire, which is that rem we just linked through. And I can also go through and see all of the text references to the Roman Empire. So every time I use the phrase Roman Empire, I don't have to create a link to it in order to create this grouping. I just have to write it and it will show up here in this page as well. So now let's give this page an image and a little description. What I also want to do up here is give this a little tag. So this is another way to group information in RemNote, is to create tags. Like I said before, everything's a rem. Every bullet point's a rem. Also, every hashtag is a rem. So every time I create a hashtag and I shift click or just click on that hashtag, it will create an empty page for it as well. So Roman Empire, let's give it the hashtag place. And what I'm doing is going hashtag, hashtag. I'm just clicking that twice. Brings up a search bar and I'm typing in place. And what I can do is either create a rem called place, or if I already have one, which I do here, I can just click it. So that's sort of a broad tag about Roman Empire, but let's give a more exacting empire. And that's enough for this page, so let's just exit out of that. Now whenever I mouse over the link, I can see this little window in kind of like a wiki style. So if you're looking more for a traditional wiki approach, this is really nice. I really, really appreciate this little window here. Moving forward, let's actually look at this page as a whole and talk about the search portal. It looks like in this page, I have a lot of examples. I have an egg example, I have a garden example. I also have examples down here as well, examples of things that are beyond our power. So I want to create a search portal and just put it right at the top that just searches for every instance in this page. I use the word example. First, let's create a title, /H3, just give it an H3 heading size. Call it notable examples. Maybe color it blue. And within here, now I can do a couple things here for a search portal. I can go /search portal and add one here. Since I'm only looking for examples within the page I'm currently in, will probably be a lot easier to just go Command F and search within this page. So let's say I want every instance I use the word example. Pressing this plus button, I can add a search portal with this filter. And I'm just going to drag that under notable examples. Okay, so let's actually create another link. Zeno's 4 degrees of conviction. So this is a person, this is a philosopher. So I want to create a page for him. Again, to create a grouping for whenever I use his name in my notes. So I'm highlighting and just pressing that open bracket once, shift click it over. And again, we have these backlinks automatically appearing. Okay, so now I have his picture and a little description. I also want to add a very specific portal in here. I actually want to add a portal to this rem inside of his little page here. So to do that quickly, I can actually come over here to the rem itself and go Command Shift P to copy this rem as a portal, or I can go / copy rem as portal. And over here on this page, just paste it in. And now I have that portal in there to quickly look at. And as well, we still have those portals down here for backlinking. Now I'm gonna add some hashtags to him, maybe hashtag person, and hashtag philosopher for a more exacting hashtag. And like I said before, even these hashtags are rems, so if I go shift click on philosopher, it will show me a philosopher page. And every single time I use the hashtag philosopher, or every single time I use the word philosopher in just plain text across my workspace. Again, if we mouse over Zeno, we'll see his picture and his description. Actually, it's kind of bothering me, his picture's too big. And to adjust the size of images, there's this little button in the corner. You can just drag it. So the next thing I want to do is talk about universal descriptors. So we went over templates in the last video, but basically, a universal descriptor is just a template. For example, if you are doing a lot of research on studies, you may be using the word result, abstract, description, conclusion, answer, opinion. You're going to use these words a lot. And if you don't want to just constantly type them out, you can use this little template or a universal descriptor to quickly type those into your page. As well, just like every other rem in your workspace, these will turn into rems, or if you click on them, blank pages with backlinks. So this is just yet another way to create groupings. And upon clicking on the universal descriptor, you'll be able to see every single instance you've used it. If we go down in the sidebar to this little I button, go into tutorials, go over to the sidebar, and go down to, I believe inside linking ideas, universal descriptors, it will explain to you what they are. But more importantly, It'll give you a list of examples of universal descriptors that you can copy into your own workspace, which I find very useful. So some examples of descriptors would be an acronym, aliases, alternative, analogy, analysis, answer. If you just want to quickly copy these into your workspace, you can by coming up here inside this block and clicking on add these rem to your knowledge base. It will show up in your documents page, probably somewhere near the top. And what I like to do is click inside of it, go to these three dots and change status as draft, pinned, or finished. And that will show up in your sidebar. For me, I only have pinned in my sidebar because I just like having that one there. And this is in the style of a template. And I do have a template video down below in the description box if you want to know more about how templates work inside of RemNote. But this template is already made for you. You don't really have to do anything with it. So if I want to access one of these descriptors somewhere else in my knowledge base, this is how you're going to do it. Let's say within this child rem called knowledge, I know I'm going to use the word knowledge a lot, just like I'm going to use the word Roman Empire. So what I want to do inside of here is first of all, tag this hashtag with maybe key concept. I want to start creating some connections. So what this little bullet point in this context reminds me of is something else in another document. It reminds me of a note I wrote a little while ago. So I want to go find that note and link it in. And I'm going to look for the universal descriptor that's called similar to or reminds me of. To do that, I could simply just go open bracket, and look for similar to. Similar to reminds me of will show up. Again, if I shift click on here, I'm going to be taken to my universal descriptors page. And if I just go find similar to, I'll be able to look at every single time I've used this universal descriptor in this little link icon over on the right. Right now, I've only used it one time. So this reminds me of a note that has the word knowledge in it, but I don't quite know what it's called. So what I'm going to do again is just open bracket to bring up that search. And I'm going to search for the word knowledge and go through all of my results across my workspace and try to find it. So it's right down here at the bottom. And I'm just going to link to it. So being ignorant of one's own ability and or knowledge results in, and I have a list of what it does result in. But I want to see that list. So when I mouse over it, it is giving me a window to that rem. And it looks like the children of this rem, there are 3 of them. I want to put all of those children in here. And I'm going to create a portal to do that. So a quick way to do this would just be to right click on this link and insert it to document. Again, there is a shortcut for this, and that's command click, which I'll do right here. And I'll create a little portal embedded below. And I can just click this open and you'll see all those children. As you can tell, these portals are really just a window into other notes. You're not just simply embedding a static text. This is editable. Editable? Not edible, edit. You can edit it. So you can come into this portal from right here and just start making edits. Which is both a blessing and a curse, because sometimes I accidentally make edits that I don't mean to. You can also do actually is just delete this link up here and just keep the portal. No, what you can also do is expand this a little further. So this is actually a child rem we're linking to, or child block. So there is a parent, and it is when a person overestimates their knowledge or ability due to inaccurate self-assessment of skill, what is the solution? So if I just click it, it will show up, and it will show up as the parent. You can see it. The bullet point is outdented to the side. If I want to go even further, there's actually a parent to this rem as well, and it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I can click that and expand that as well. I can also show the media that's attached to it. So essentially, if you embed a block from another part of your workspace, you can expand that block in this way. So I'm actually going to tuck this little portal under similar to reminds me of universal descriptor and toggle it inside so I can hide it there. So as you can tell, this knowledge rem, child rem, is turned into a document, has a little document page there. So how I did that is you can actually, there is a shortcut for this, I'll put up on the screen. You can just go /document and tag as document. So another thing I do to make connections in RemNote is I highlight words that I know I'm using a lot in my workspace. and just give it a quick search. So whenever you highlight a word, you can toggle this button over here, toggle automatic searching, and it will search for every single instance knowledge is used, which is kind of awesome. So I'm gonna just look through here, and I can see that actually within this document, I have a rem called strongest level of conviction, and the answer is knowledge. So I could throw that in there since it does have to do with Stoicism and make that connection. So let me actually create another child within here and find the universal descriptor called answer. So I'm just gonna go open bracket to put up that search bar and squiggly line, answer, and connect it to open bracket, and I'm just gonna search for knowledge again and scroll down to that one. Strongest level of conviction. Now I know that this rem, its answer is knowledge. The strongest level of conviction for Stoicism is knowledge. Let's move on. So here's another instance where I can use a universal descriptor. Let's say in this one, I want to use the descriptor related to. So I'm gonna relate this to another note, go open bracket, squiggly line, related to, and link to this particular note that is called Little Universe about microcosm. This sort of has a direct relation to the Stoics' view, history is cyclical, the universe begins and ends in fire, then starts all over again. So this is definitely related to this concept. And if I want to expand this, so if I put my mouse over it, you can see the full context of this. It says little universe microcosm of the greater cosmos is the description of it. I want to show the description of it as well in this link, so I'm just going to right click, show content, and I can see it there. Now let's move down to something else. Stoic view of God. So let's enter tab in. God is an element in all physical objects. He orders all things for the best. Okay, so a good example of this would be something called pantheism, which is the belief that everything is God and, all that. So I know I have that rem somewhere in my workspace, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a universal descriptor again. Open bracket, and I'm going to look for squiggly line. I know this has like an actual term, not squiggly line, but that's what I call it. And I'm going to look for example of. Again, this is in the list of all of those default sort of universal descriptors that RemNote gives you in that tutorial page. This rem is an example of pantheism, so I'm just going to look for that. What is pantheism? And show its full context. Let's do another one, rational principle. So this is actually a principle, and I have a universal descriptor for principle. So what I'm actually going to do is, since principle is already written out, I'm going to highlight it, open bracket once, create this search feature for a word that already exists, and click on that squiggly line principle. So that's also kind of how I use these universal descriptors. So again, like I said before, if you shift click on these links and then search within this page principle, I can see every instance I use this descriptor in the whole workspace. So it's a great retrieval method that feels very like automatic. So even though you don't have a very robust query language in RemNote, these power-up rems and places where things sort of just automatically collect in a lot of ways is better than a robust query language, although I'd like both. So yeah, this is basically how I make connections in my notes. I usually make these connections as I go along. I don't go back and do them later. I usually try to make sure portals and connections and things are made in the moment, because I will not go back and make these connections later. It's just a fact. Now, before I close this out, I think I just filmed like a feature film, but before I close this out, I want to show you some little things you might have noticed. You'll see in search portals that the results are all highlighted in blue. You can alter the CSS, the design. I've found a way to get rid of this blue highlight because I know it's a little bit like, I don't like it very much. So the way I did that is going into the sidebar, going to documents and this little magnifying glass. I'm searching for CSS, custom CSS, and I have all of my custom blocks here. You know, each block has its own category. So this one's for changing the highlighting color. So the natural highlight for these blocks look like these colors. I wanted to make them a little bit more vibrant, so when I toggle that on, they change to these highlight colors. I also have a block to get rid of these blue highlights. That is this little one right here. Get rid of blue highlight in search result. If I toggle that on, they will disappear. And I will leave this. Actually, I think I wrote an article on all of this, but I'll leave down in the description box this exact CSS for getting rid of this blue highlight. All right, so I hope this gave you some value at the very least, gave you some inspiration on different ways to use RemNote and some of its features. I am very excited to make videos like this and to keep making videos on RemNote and knowledge bases and life learning. So, because of this, I'm going to start creating 2 videos a week. One video will be on Notion because that's the program I have the most ideas to do videos on. And the second one will be probably for you, who's watching, this video. I feel like I have a divide in my audience. Not like a stark divide, but just the RemNote people and the Notion people who found my RemNote tutorials and are asking me to make more of those. And I have my Notion people. So, and of course there's people that merge, I'm sure. If you want to give me some suggestions down below on other videos, other programs, even like RemNote content that I should do in the new year, even just like sit-down videos on life learning, on approaching reading, I don't want, when it comes to like doing life learning videos, I don't want to like make video essays, I don't want to come off too, pretentious maybe. I think that's definitely a territory we can get into by accident. With that type of sort of knowledge-based stuff, I want to keep it pretty casual, pretty realistic with my advice. So yeah, let me know. We're going to end it here because I think I talked too long. And thank you for everything. Thank you for... We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome, and I've already cried, but thank you very much. And I'll see you guys on Twitter for the rest of the week in a couple days with a Notion video. See you then.